I have an experience where I do not have a healthy connection with the religion that I was brought up in, on top of the fact that still to this day, people that I know that are a part of this religious organization um, put me in a situation where every day surviving is like a battleground. I have noticed a pattern, at least here in the United States and a lot of impoverished communities. The church is being designated to help the poor. Now, in my personal opinion, I don't have a problem with that. Why do I say that? Because that's what the organization is for. That's what it's supposed to be for. If they're collecting tithes, which is 10% of what the church going community is contributing to build the church, to fund the church, to make the church either bigger or maybe help with, pipelines or, just rebuilding the place, making it the building stronger, just having better organizations within, the church. Right? Why not, right? Whatever investments that is being provided to the church on top of Mitt Romney not paying no tax, um, I would imagine that all the funds that's being put towards it without it being taxed would go towards, I would imagine, helping the poor, buying the food, making sure that people have clothes and, shoes and stuff that they need. I would imagine that's what the funds would go towards, right? I don't have a problem with that at all. Me personally, I don't. But speaking from my personal experience, I've noticed. Now, I don't know who to point the finger at in this particular instance, but I've noticed that when the poor people are sent to the churches to get, the necessities, we are treated often at times as prisoners and not really welcome with love and open arms, especially to those who are different or who do not fit the status quo of what a religious organization would accept. In my personal experience, and for those who have, gone through the similar struggle to what I've been through, you may have suffered at the hands of intolerance. It's one thing to, murder someone, an innocent person. It's one thing to molest a child. It's another thing to be conniving and vindictive. That behavior is intolerable everywhere. But to have spiritual differences and to be treated hostile seems unfair. And what I've noticed is that a lot of the good religious people are even oppressed in these organizations. See, because, from my, standpoint, I don't have a problem with someone having any difference with me, regardless of whatever it is. I don't have a problem with someone having a difference in opinion. I truly don't. I don't mind having a respectful conversation about that when it comes to certain things and differences, because me personally, I enjoy listening to someone having a respectful conversation with me about something that they disagree with me on. It could be anything. It could be school related, it could be politics, it could be religious or spiritual, it could be whatever, theories, you know what I mean? Just basic, answers that are just different from each other. I don't mind having those type of conversations. Those conversations are mentally stimulating for me. But the conversations that I don't enjoy having daily are, why don't you go back to church? Why did you decide to come out? Why are you deciding to be like a man? Why are you choosing to be so difficult and so non-compliant? Why do you have to stray from everyone else? Why do you have to be by yourself and, distance yourself, from the people that you grew up with? And that's a good question. That's a really good question. But I already answered that. I don't mind having a difference in opinion, a different in beliefs, but what is something that can't be tolerated is disrespect when there is a difference in opinion. I believe that two people who have two different mindsets, as long as it's not like a battle between good and evil, if they're both, say, decent people and they have a difference in opinion, I don't see there being an issue with these two people still having an alliance or being friends. Now, where I would say it's best to separate and go different directions, go their separate ways, is when there are words that are said that can't be taken back, and when there are actions that are done and fulfilled out of intolerance and hatred and, whatever other reasons. Those are things that can't be taken back. Once you ring a bell, you can't undo it. It's been heard. Everybody on the planet may not have heard it, but somebody somewhere heard it. And the reality of it is, for me, I don't necessarily agree with religion per se. Like, and I'm not saying, oh, it's so bad it should be shunned, burn every religious holy book. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, as far as my belief system, it's not the same as the religious system, but there are some things within the religious platform or just religion itself I do agree with. There is truth in religion that I respect. So this is not a diss. I'm not trolling. I'm just speaking from the heart, sincerely. I respect religion, all forms of it. I respect it, and I always will. And still to this day, I'm doing research on it because I think it's very interesting. Different perspectives, because I feel like it's all true. To be honest, it's all, religion is, like, to me, in my opinion, like a piece of the puzzle called life, or called existence, or you know what I mean. It's so much bigger. I feel like religion is bigger than life, in my opinion. The essence of it is bigger. It's a divine essence, in my opinion. And that's not something that I choose to follow personally, but I respect it. And I'm trying to learn more about just different religions because I think it's very interesting. And actually, I've had conversations with religious people who didn't just immediately shun me and call me the Antichrist because I didn't, I didn't believe what they believed in. They were, I'd ask them questions like, what's up with, Jesus turning water into wine, and they would give me a really good answer. Well, it was to celebrate, but not to drink it in excess, which is, something that I learned. And I think that's very interesting when I ask, people who, study their Bible, they learn their Bible, and they're willing to talk about it. Just like I've had conversations with people who are Muslim and they've studied the Quran, they've read it many times, and they were willing to show me certain scriptures that may have answered questions that I was asking, just vaguely. Like it may not have had a specific topic, but I may have just come across somebody that just so happened to be Muslim and they had the Quran with them, and they're like, oh, well, you know what? I can find that answer in this chapter and that, and I can give you an answer to that. And it actually did answer my question. And I've like actually seen people who have their Bible and they study and they are actually able to give an answer. So then when I look at it and I'm, me personally, when I read the Bible, I prefer to read the King James Bible because it's closer to the Hebrew Bible. And then I've also heard that, some of the Bible's origins have come from the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is something that I didn't learn when I was, when I was going to church growing up. I didn't learn that until, afterwards, which was, I thought was very interesting. And the Dead Sea Scrolls came from the caves, which is very interesting. I thought that that information was very interesting. I didn't know that. So I don't know. It's just very interesting. And then at first, like, I didn't know that Muslims thought that Jesus was a prophet. Now, I didn't know that. I knew that they didn't believe in Jesus being the Messiah, but I didn't know that they saw Jesus as a prophet. I just thought they saw him as like a messenger. Like they acknowledged him as Messiah, like as a messenger Messiah, but I didn't know that they were like, no, he's a whole prophet. I'm like, okay, I didn't know that. Originally, when I was going to church and when I know I have some family members that are Muslim and I had some friends that were Muslim. And, you know, yeah, I didn't learn that growing up. And then, when I kind of, did my own thing and I started doing research on my own, this was stuff that I learned from people who study. I thought it was really interesting, actually. Um, but anyway, so I've noticed that a lot of these organizations have been designed to help poor people. I don't have a problem with that at all, and I support that. But there is something that I do need to say, though, that I do have an issue with, and that's the intolerance that's been shown towards people who are different, who are born different. Um, the thing is, a lot of the religious platforms that I've dealt with are very intolerant and oppressive towards women. Doesn't matter if they're people of color, if they're European. Women have been disrespected in all of these religious platforms and have not given them the proper way to express not only their femininity but to get in touch with their masculine energy. A lot of these religious platforms do not allow that. So the woman is being oppressed, is being silenced, is being held back from growing. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I feel like if there's going to be any platform at all, it doesn't matter if it's religious, spiritual, or if it's a communal. It should be healthy for the people that represent it. If the people are going to spend their money investing in that community, if the people are going to spend their time with whatever platform is being presented to them, they should be getting something back in return. So it may not necessarily be money, but they should at least get what they came there to get. And if it's spiritual healing, spiritual growth, if it's, conversation, if it's, extracurricular activities, whatever it is, The people that invested in that platform should get back exactly what they invested. It should not be a situation where they're put up with people who have a negative attitude. If you're going to have a platform, the people who are running that particular platform, such as a religious one, it should be with people who not only study what they're talking about, but it should also be people who are going to lead the people in times of turmoil. So it shouldn't be a situation where something bad happens and the leaders that the people depend on run off with their money. That's not how things are supposed to go, and it's not supposed to become a hate mob, a lynch mob, when someone is different. Now, there are some situations where I would understand a lynch mob. Okay, I do. Like, such as, human trafficking or child trafficking, child abuse. I get that. Murdering in cold blood innocent people. I understand that. That's a situation where I would understand there being a lynch mob. Somebody that's just so evil that you just got to get rid of them. I get it. But, you don't do that with good people who are flawed. We're all flawed. And no one is in a position to break someone's spirit just because they're different. I believe that if you're trying to send a message of hope and change and spiritual growth, all people are welcome to get healing. That's specifically what it's for, right? And if they cannot get healing, then what is that platform for? Because it's not supposed to represent corruption. It's not supposed to represent oppression. It's supposed to represent what? Hopefully something ethical. Now, what I've seen with the religious platforms of today's society is not acceptable. The people within the communities are being oppressed, and that is not acceptable at all. Okay? There's situations where children have been molested and human trafficked within these specific organizations that are supposed to represent them. In daycares, schools, churches, children are being exploited. And these are supposed to be the platforms that don't get taxed. But good people that are willing to, you know, basically invest money out of their own pocket to do for more for the community than what some of these organizations are doing. In the hoods where I'm coming from, it's people that everybody in the hood know that does for the community, not the churches. The people in the churches serve for the community when they can get something back. Most of the time, that's when they help. Is when they can get back tax, when they can get some type of tax write-off. That's when a lot of people do it, but they're not doing it because it's genuine. They're not doing it because they see how people are struggling. They're doing it because they're getting something back in return. It's people out in the hood that we know that just give because it's the holidays. They just give because they tired of seeing people struggle. They give a handout. They give a nigga a loan. They throw in something. They like, you know what? You've been hustling your ass off. Here's $200. And that's how it is in the hood. We look out for each other, but the communities that are supposed to represent us, that are supposed to help us in times of need, don't help us out of the kindness of their heart. They do it so that they can get votes. They do it so that they can get some type of representation or some type of validation. They don't do it because they love the people. And that's not fair to the people, and it's not acceptable if you're going to be in a position of authority. The people deserve to have better, and the children deserve to grow up in an environment where it's healthy and they can express their talents, their God given talent. It shouldn't be an environment where they're being used for their adrenochrome. It shouldn't be an environment where they're being touched and sexually exploited. It shouldn't be an environment where they're being beaten. It shouldn't be an environment where they're being forced to work for little to no pay. It should be an environment where they're allowed to express whatever love that they have in their heart for what they do. And when we stop children from being able to do what they came here to do, we stop the future. When we get old and gray and we become old farts and we can't move anymore, the youth is not going to be there for us. You want to know why? Because when they were children and they wanted that love and they wanted that chance to do what they love, we told them no. We pushed them away. What do you think they're going to do to us when we get old and gray? Huh? We treated them so badly during their childhood that the only thing they remember is that. They have no good memories to turn to, and every time they see you, they run away. That's what's going to happen. And we will never be able to break the cycle until we do right by these children. They can't really necessarily speak up when certain situations happen. And when they do, they don't necessarily have the power to change it right away. They don't. And it's our responsibility as adults to listen to children when they speak and take their traumas seriously when they speak up. And even adults who've been through trauma. When people speak up and they tell their story and they talk about their trauma, it's not a joke. It's not something that you could just laugh at and pass off like it's nothing, because you wouldn't want someone to do that to you. It's our responsibility as adults to teach the children to respect each other and listen to each other so that we can put an end to this damn bully culture. It's one thing to bully the right person. If you're going to do it, at least do it to the right person. Damn. But somebody that's minding their own business, somebody that's just different, it's not acceptable. So, what does any of that have to do with me? Well, I'm going to get to that point in just a second. I grew up in a religious organization that was intolerant towards me. The religious organization that I grew up in went out of their way to oppress me and put me in my womanly place. That is why I was forced to walk away from so-called friends, family, and associates and acquaintances that I had from the past. I had to do that because when I reached out to get help, no one helped. People just stood there and they laughed and they thought it was a joke until I cut them off. Yes, I cut people off and I had to do that because my life had gotten so bad where I thought I was going to die. And people are making fun of my situation and it was completely inappropriate. And that was a test. Because I watched people. Some people said nothing and did nothing. And some people made fun and made the situation worse by adding on to the abuse. What I didn't receive was support or help, not from people that I knew. It was the community, yes, but not from people that I knew personally, no. Because when I came out of the closet and when I shared that that I am not a Christian or that I wasn't going to align with any religion at all whatsoever, that was when everybody turned their back on me. Everybody. So they either stood there and watched me get abused and humiliated, or they joined. And that's what let me know who my real friends were. Strangers, complete strangers that just supported me from a moral standpoint. Those who my real friends were. Sad to say, but that's the truth. That's my truth. The people that I knew went out of their way to either neglect me or disrespect me. And that's my truth. That's why I cut everybody off from my past and I started over. And I'm going to keep doing that until I have healthy people in my life. That's just how it's going to be. And how did the people of my past respond to that? Because, when it comes down to dealing with toxic people and you get to a point where you just say la vie, adios, some people accept that, they respect that, and they walk away. It's life. That's called maturity. Now, some people, on the other hand, throw a temper tantrum, which is called a narcissistic injury for those who may not know the layman's term for it. It's a narcissistic injury because ultimately only a narcissist can respond the way that people responded to me. It couldn't have been just a normal person would either try to squash it, fix whatever is broken, and reach some kind of compromise and understanding. That's what good people do. That's what good friends do. Narcissists, on the other hand, follow you everywhere you go and hoover, which is called hoovering. They hover over your life, which is 9 times out of 10 by attacking your finances, isolating you from family and friends. That's how they hover. So hoover is when they follow you around to see where you go, see where you live, all that. Hovering is when they actively do things to sabotage you and keep you connected to them when you've decided that you're done. Okay, narcissists a lot of times don't take no for an answer. Now, some of them do. Some of them, once you realize who they are, they're gone. You'll never see them again. You'll never hear from them again. It'd be as if they never existed. But then there are the ones that are on the higher end of the spectrum that take a departure or a no contact personally because they want to be the ones ultimately to discard you, but some narcissists don't ever discard certain people, and in my particular case, when I realized that some of the people in my life were narcissists, and they wouldn't just accept me going no contact, what I had to do for survival was to stay around until they discarded me. Now, that did work for a lot of them. I mean, a lot of them, when they realized that I was starting to smarten up and figure them out and set boundaries and they couldn't benefit from that, they walked away on their own. I don't talk to them no more. It ain't nothing else to say about them. Now, there are some that still stuck around. Um, and so what I did was, played the part and waited until the discard. Now, the discard is very painful to experience, but trust me, it's like ripping off a band-aid. It's like pouring alcohol on an open wound. It hurts like hell, but it heals. So when the narcissist discarded me, it was brutal, but it was worth it because I wanted them gone, and I know that I wasn't gonna be able to just do it by cutting them off. So they had to cut me off, which was fine. I'm a better person for it, but that's how I had to go. Now there were some, which was the minority, which I'm gonna be honest, that minority was a strong number because their willpower to attack me and destroy me was very strong. I give it to them. They put in a lot of time and effort to destroy my name, to destroy my character, to isolate me. These ones were like pure evil. Like they were relentless on destroying me. They were like, they armor ready, guns ready, guns loaded, trigger happy. You hear me? These excuse me, these people were very relentless about um, taking me down. Excuse me, give me a moment. Okay, excuse me. Okay, so the people that were still in my life, even after I kind of made it clear that I wasn't interested and, no longer responding to the Hoovers, no longer accepting their help, no longer engaging in conversation, these were people that still kind of were committed to sticking around, even though I made it clear that there was no reconciliation. There was nothing to repair. The relationship was over. It's over. It's nothing to redeem. It's over. I made it clear. These were people that still stuck around, which society would probably deem them as sociopaths or psychopaths or pure evil, whatever you want to call them. But anyway, these were people that were dedicated to sticking around. Now, let me backtrack for a second, okay? Because what does that have to do with the religious platform? What do these few people have to do with religion itself? Um, well, what do these people have to do with religion itself? I'm not the only one that has experienced intolerance at the hands of not only these people in the name of religion, but I'm not the only one that suffered at the hands of religious people in general. So not just, you know what I'm saying? I not only suffered from the few people that are still in my life that have not gotten the hint that they need to walk away, and then I have had issues with actual religious people that I've never met before in my life, or that I may have known from acquaintances or from the past or whatever, and them imposing their religious beliefs on me and making my life harder because I don't agree with them. Okay. And I've also noticed that the very few people that are still in my life right now are making other people suffer. So I'm not the only person that they're antagonizing. They're doing this to other people, and they're doing this to children as well. Okay? And then religious people in general, like not everybody, but the bad apples of the religious groups are terrorizing people who don't agree with religion. Okay? A lot of the bad apples within the religious community are setting up gang stalking organizations to harass, antagonize, and terrorize people who are different. That is what my testimony has to do with religion or religious people. Let me rephrase that. Because I don't have a problem with religion itself, at least the moral aspect of it and how it educates people. Now, there are some things within religion that I don't agree with that I'm not going to talk about right now. I'll save that for another video. But there, you know what I'm saying? It's the bad apples. We got to address the bad apples. We got to get the bad apples out the way, throw them out the way before they spoil the other fruit. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Okay, because there are good people behind religious platforms that don't force their ideals on other people, and they bring about a friendly and loving environment to people, and it makes them want to be a part of it. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, no, 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 we got to stop religion altogether. Oh, I don't like it, I hate it, I hate it. It's like, no, I'm not like that at all. If I see a good person saying, hey, this is what I think, this is what I believe, and it's your choice on whether or not you want to believe it too, but I'm here to help, not just because of my religion, but because it's the right thing to do. I respect that. A lot of us in the community respect that. A lot of the anger and the hate that comes from the community that's directed towards the religious platforms is not a bias. It's more specifically aimed at to teach people and to show people that we're not really being treated fairly. That's where the hostility is coming from on the behalf of the community. Now, there are even some members of the community that believe in the religious platforms, but they don't agree with the way some people treat others. Even people who are a part of the religious platform that believe it, that practice it, don't agree with the way some of the the religious leaders are treating people. Some of them have made complaints. So there's a understanding. There is a mutual understanding that the bad apples within religious platforms are spoiling the religion itself. Can we mutually agree on that? Can we stop acting like we don't see what's going on and that people are being mistreated? Can we stop acting like the elephant is not in the room because it's there and we all see it? Ain't nobody throwing shade. This is just the truth that needs to be said. It needs to be spoken. It needs to be acknowledged. and something needs to be done about it before there is an uproar. It does need to be acknowledged, though. It cannot continue to be ignored. It needs to be acknowledged because this makes the whole religion look bad. And I know that there's good people out there that believe in what they believe in, and they don't want whatever they believe in destroyed, because the people are not, what I'm saying, the people are just, furious. The people want justice for what they went through. We want justice. I want justice for what I went through as a child via the 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 institution of religion. We all want to be repaired. We all want to heal from the trauma that we suffered from being in these religious institutions. It feels less like an open, loving home and more like a mental institution, a mental asylum. That's what it feels like. And that's not how it's supposed to be. If people got to go to a mental asylum, take them there, but don't build a church and disguise it as a church and it's really a mental asylum. Don't do that to people. That's a ripoff. Give people what they paid for. Give people what they came here for, what they spent their time on. Don't trick people. Don't bamboozle people. Don't do people like that. That's not right. It's not cool. We the people, we not getting jiggy with that. We can't get jiggy with that shit. No, seriously, we can't get jiggy with that shit. No, 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 not today. Straight up. It's bullshit. So that needed to be addressed. Now, let's get a little bit more personal and talk about what happened to me. Because I can say, oh, well, this is what we went through. This is our experience, but the only person I can really speak for is myself. So let me get to the point. I went through hell. I went through hell. Um, I went from not necessarily agreeing with the religion itself, but being willing to participate every now and then. From not wanting to be anywhere near a church. So how did that happen? Well, um, the religious platform that I was under was originally the Methodist Church, the Black Methodist Church religion in Chicago, and that was the church that my grandmother was, or my great grandmother was a part of. So when my great grandmother was a part of that, that's kind of where the rest of the family went, because on my mom's side of the family, the mothers were the leaders, because the fathers were either working, or they were in the war. So the mothers kind of had to be the leader and take the family to church, and that's just how it went. Now we all know the church roots and how it infiltrated the Black Native Americans here. Okay, I don't think I need to go into that conversation right now, but I'm sure you can understand based off my story how the church got into my family. So anyway, my great grandmother went to the Black Methodist Church in Chicago, Illinois. So the rest of my family went up until the point where me and my family moved to Houston, Houston, Texas. Um, then that's when we started going to Southern Baptist churches, because those were like any Methodist church that we went to, or non-denominational church that we went to. It was very crowded, far away from where we lived, so it just all in all wasn't convenient. And